What's up, guys? Welcome back to Rosie TV. It's Safe here, and today I'm starting a little bit of a new series over the next few weeks. It is World Cup season, so like I said, over the next few weeks I'm actually going to be looking at some of the bigger teams from the World Cup and picking the 23-man squad. I picked a few of the squads so far, and it is a tough task. I do not envy any of these managers, except for the fact that they make millions. But besides that, there's just so much that goes into it. To be honest with you, like, it really depends on the formation you're playing. If you want to fit people in the system, or you want to reward people for having a fantastic season. So I've put this all into account. And today, the first team I'm going to be doing is Portugal. Fernando Santos' Portugal, the current European champions. This is around the time that managers put out their 23-man squad. So if, Brazil put out their squad and I haven't done the video yet, I'm going to look at that squad and compare it to the 23-man squad that I put out. Fernando Santos hasn't put out his squad yet, so thankfully, hopefully he'll watch this video and he'll take notes. But let's just go straight into this. First, we're going to start off with the goalkeepers. Typical 3 goalies. They're going to definitely bring Rui Patricio. I mean, he's the one who's the starter in Euro 2016. One of the best goalkeepers they have. Anthony Lopez as well. Very good goalie. I think those two are going to be fighting for that starting spot. And finally, Jose Sa probably be the last one. You could go a few different ways, but I'm not going to fret over the third choice goalie, who probably won't even sniff the pitch. But no really notable omissions there. I went pretty safe. Next, the defenders. First, I'm going to go with Ricardo Pereira at right back, as well as Nelson Semedo. Pereira has been consistently one of the most underrated fullbacks in Europe. I mean, last year for Nice, who really overachieved, and this year for Porto. So I definitely think that he might even get a starting spot. Semedo, not a starter for Barcelona quite yet. I do think that he's almost to that level. But when he does play, I do think he is a fantastic fullback. Next, at the left back spot, Rafael Guerreiro, who didn't get many minutes this season because of fitness and injury issues, but when he does play, he is the best left back Portugal has. So, Fernando Santos will definitely take him. Alisu, a player that Fernando Santos definitely likes. A little bit on the older side, but a pretty reliable player. Next to center backs, I think this is one of the biggest problems for Portugal, and that's their aging center backs. Pepe, Bruno Alves, probably going to be the starters. They're both in their mid-30s, but you don't really have many better options in there. I think they're just going to go with, the 2 reliable center backs, but that could definitely hurt them, especially if they go against, a very quick attack. They could definitely be found out. Backup center backs, Pablo Oliveira. This is a little bit of a, player from left field here. Not someone who's a mainstay in this Portugal team. He only has 1 cap with the national team, but he had a pretty good season at a decent team like Eibar. And I feel that, statistically speaking, he is one of the more reliable, one of the better center backs for Portugal. And finally, Luis Neto for Fenerbahce. He's someone who's actually played for Portugal a lot. Not a consistent starter, but someone, a handyman off the bench. Looking at the notable omissions, in terms of center back, Rolando and Jose Font. Font now plays in China, and towards the end of his Premier League career, he definitely started to drop off. Rolando, I think it's really a toss-up between either bringing Rolando or Luis Neto, but I feel like Fernando Santos should probably go in the Luis Neto direction. Rolando is a little bit on the older side, and you don't have too many old center backs because you're already bringing Pepe and Bruno Alves, so you want to have someone with some fresh legs that you can put on there. The big notable omission here, Cedric Suarez. I know Fernando Santos loves Cedric, and he is a very reliable fullback, but I would definitely take, at this point, Pereira and Semedo over Cedric. Cedric, is playing for a Southampton team that's fighting relegation. I know it's not completely his fault, but I do think Ricardo Pereira, he has to be rewarded for the 2 great seasons he's had, both at Nice and now at Porto. And Semedo, like I said, there's a reason why he went to Barcelona. So he might not be playing every single week consistently, but I do think when he touches the pitch, he's a better option than Cedric. Fabio Coentrão probably misses this tournament. Not the same player he used to be, and I do think that Guerreiro obviously is a much better fullback, and Alisu is probably a better safe pair of hands than Coentrão. Moving on now to the midfielders. I'm kind of mixing in wingers and midfielders here. I know some of these players could be classified as forwards, but I'm just kind of grouping the wingers and midfielders together. Ricardo Carvalho, definite starter, underrated defensive midfielder. I mean, I'm really surprised he's still at Sporting. I'm surprised like a bigger team hasn't come and picked him up. Ruben Neves had a fantastic season at Wolves. That was one of the strangest signings last year. Going to Wolves in the second division, but Wolves, they won the championship. They're going to the Premier League. I know it's the championship, but it's a pretty competitive league. And Ruben Neves has been one of the standout players in that league, if not the standout player. So I do think he will be a good option for Santos. Next, Bruno Fernandes, who has had a fantastic season for Sporting. I mean, he's had a very prolific season. He's a goal-scoring midfielder, which I think could be really useful to Santos. And he's a versatile player, so he could play more in a central midfield role, an attacking midfield role, and he's even slotted into a defensive midfield role sometimes this season. But he's obviously known for his goal scoring. Next is Pizzi, who I think who kind of goes under the radar for Benfica. I do really like him as a player. I don't watch the Portuguese league that much. But when I do sit down and look at the highlights, watch the highlights, Pizzi I always feel is just a reliable player. Similar to Fernandes, has that goal-scoring threat. Not as much as Fernandes, of course, but I think Pizzi could be a good option for him. Finally, now on the wings, Gonzalo Guedes. I mean, he's been fantastic this season for Valencia. Looking outside of the elite teams in Barcelona, Real Madrid, and Atletico in La Liga, Valencia have been the standout team. And Guedes has been one of the standout players. So I definitely think he deserves to come for sure and might even start on that left-hand side. But he's going to be competing with Ronnie Lopez, who, for me, has been one of the best standout players in Ligue 1 this season. Leonardo Jardim lost a lot of players in the summer, but Ronnie Lopez has definitely stepped up to fill that void on the wing. And I do think that it's going to be a big toss-up between who starts on that left-hand side. Is it going to be Guedes? Is it going to be Ronnie Lopez? It's kind of a good headache to have, I guess, for Santos. On the right-hand side, you have Bernardo Silva. You have to take Silva. He had a great season for Manchester City. He had a great season for Monaco the season before. One of the standout players besides Cristiano Ronaldo on this team. Next, Quaresma. I know he's an older player. But the thing with Quaresma is there's not many striking options, and at Euro 2016, sometimes he was used in that striker role. So I think he's versatile in that sense. He could play on the right. He could sometimes play up top. And, even though he's an older player, he actually has had a good season for Besiktas, statistically speaking. So I do think that Fernando Santos should bring in that veteran presence in Quaresma. And finally, Gelson Martins, who... another young player on the wing. That's something that Portugal really have going for them, is their wing players. They have some fantastic players. I mean, Ronnie Lopez, Bernardo Silva, Gonzalo Guedes, Gelson Martins, Quaresma, of course. That's definitely one of their biggest strengths. Looking at their notable omissions, João Mario, who's really been flip-flop this whole season. He went on loan to West Ham, didn't really do much there. I don't really see him getting into this side. Next, this big one, and it really hurts me to say because I do actually really like him, João Moutinho. It's really either João Moutinho or Ruben Neves, and I do think that Neves has had a better overall season. He's a standout player for his team. Moutinho, on the other hand, has kind of stepped back, used more as a bench player, and even when he does start, he doesn't really play the whole 90 minutes. I know he's one of the veteran presences in that locker room, but at the same time, I do think that, Fernando Santos should look a little bit more at youth in that midfield. That's why I brought guys like Neves and Pizzi and Bruno Fernandes and Guedes. Moving on now, Andre Gomes. Really not the same player he used to be at Valencia. At Barcelona, he's really struggled to get game time. And just his confidence is really, really low. I would not bring him to the World Cup. Adrian Silva. A good defensive player, but at the same time, hasn't got many minutes, especially in that second half of the season for Leicester. And finally, Danilo Pereira. And this is a shame because I would definitely bring Danilo Pereira. I think he's a great second option to Carvalho in that defensive midfield role. But he has picked up an injury and will miss the World Cup. So that really sucks for Santos and for Pereira, of course. Moving on to the forwards, this is definitely, I think, in terms of depth, this is definitely a weakness. Obviously, you have Ronaldo. I mean, one of the best players in the world, if not the best player in the world. He's in fire form, could win the Champions League. Right next to him, I'm going to say Andre Silva. I'm not, I'm trying to keep my Milan bias away, but Silva, looking at the striking options for Portugal, there's not really many better than Silva because of the fact that, when he plays for Portugal, he is a better player for sure. At Milan, he hasn't really hit the ground running. He did pretty good in the Europa League, scoring some goals, but in league play, he really struggled. But I do think he'll be brought in because of how prolific he's been for the national team. So I do think he'll get that starting spot next to Ronaldo. And in terms of third striking option off the bench, the only player I can really see them bringing realistically is Paulinho, who's a striker that plays for Braga. He scored, I believe, 13 goals this season. Pretty decent player. I just don't see anyone better than him, honestly. Just looking at their striking options, they are really lacking. But that's my 23-man squad. Tell me what you guys thought of it in the comment section below. Tell me who you think should be going to the World Cup. Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think Moutinho should come? Maybe Adrian Silva? Maybe, I don't know, Cedric? So tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll be doing Spain next, so that's going to be a big one. It's going to be a fun one. Thank you for watching the video, and please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys later.